Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I'm joined by Maria Riegger. She is a corporate attorney based in the Washington, D.C. area. She's a best-selling author, speaker, astrologer, and trauma-informed parenting expert. Maria, thank you so much for coming to Spiritual Spotlight series. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm really excited to be here.
So, Maria, can you share with us a bit about your background and what led you to become a corporate attorney by day and a best-selling author and astrologer by night?
Yeah, I know those things are so incongruous. It's like people kind of look at me strange sometimes. Um, so yeah, I'm a Gemini sun. So for people that study astrology, you know that Geminis, we love dialogue, we love written and verbal expression of language. We love to argue. We're good negotiators. My kid, has a lot of Gemini energy in his birth chart, like negotiation is like breathing to him. Yeah, so we're kind of, it's pretty easy for like a person with strong Gemini energy to make that transition into being an attorney for those reasons, just as an aside. But yeah, so I like many of the parents I work with, am working on healing
Mm,
and reparenting myself after childhood abuse. And a lot of us who have diagnosis of complex PTSD, we have a lot of challenges because we are working on recovery ourselves and learning how to be good parents because we had very poor relationship models
mm.
for parent-child relationships, but also for like adult romantic relationships. So it's a lot of work. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of energy. So kind of one of my main missions is to support those parents because that can be a very lonely endeavor,
Yes.
frankly. Yeah, so one of the great things about social media is that can connect more people that way, right? So we feel less alone. So I got into astrology, interestingly enough. I've been into astrology my whole life. And I started out as kind of something fun. And when I started to explore the energies more in detail, I came across a lot of patterns, like patterns
Mm,
with similar types of energy and similar placements. And I eventually came to the conclusion that there is merit in studying this, even though we may not necessarily know why the positions of the planets, the moment of somebody's birth may have an effect on their approaches to life or their personality or how they pursue their goals or what they need to for emotional safety. Even though we may not know exactly why that's the case, there is merit in studying this. So that's what I started to study it. This is years ago. I started to study it more in depth. And it's so helpful for um, people who are kind of coming from that place of childhood trauma to like reacquaint themselves with their authentic selves. It's a great
yeah.
modality for that, studying their own birth chart. And it's also a great modality for studying the dynamics in relationships, including parent-child relationships. So that's primarily where I use it now as a parenting coach, clients who are open to astrology.
Mm,
And there are many, interestingly enough, um, because the more I talk to parents about this, kind of the more validated these parents feel like, yes, you've explained my child how they behave exactly, based on kind of the energy prevalent in their chart. So yeah, it's a great way for self-understanding, but also to understand your kids. And it emphasizes that point that our children are separate sovereign beings from
right.
us, not extensions of us, the parents, right? With their own kind of energy blueprint.
Yeah, I think it's hard for some people to understand that we just have to model right behavior for our kids and they're not like our little models of us. um, so your childhood experiences seem to have profoundly shaped your journey. How did the loss of your father and being raised by a narcissistic parent influence your path towards self-improvement and conscious parenting?
Um, I there were a lot of things I needed as a kid that I did not get. I had no support, nobody, not at school. Therapists failed me. My parents failed me, unfortunately. So I feel very profoundly like what I needed that I didn't get, and I was determined to make sure that my own child gets those things.
Yeah.
And it also kind of gave me an idea of really what's really important, and it's not um my kid making me look good by achieving, right? It's about me guiding my child on their own journey, whatever that looks like for them, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think about that all the time, and it's a lifelong process, this process of kind of getting over and getting past that negative conditioning that you have from childhood. So when I find myself kind of going back into like like recreating and engaging in a dynamic like my parents would have engaged in that was negative, I catch myself and I stop myself. And the more you do that, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's helpful. And I'm proud of myself when I'm able to like regulate myself emotionally and not lose my stuff and and not, and not invalidate my kids' feelings, right? Even over
Right.
something that me as an adult may think is trivial, to a kid, it's not trivial because they
Yeah.
don't have the sophistication that an adult has yet. So yeah, it's made me definitely. This is why I say, and I speak on this topic. In fact, just a few days ago, I gave a talk at a summit on this topic. I talk to a lot of parents with these backgrounds who are afraid to have kids or afraid they're going to pass on this negative conditioning to their kids. And I impress upon them, actually, this background, your traumatic background, once you recognize it for what it is, and once you make the decision to heal from it, that's a gift you're giving your kids. And you're actually very well positioned to be a great parent, not a perfect parent because nobody is, but you have the potential to be a great parent. And it's because of that past. It's because you know what you needed and didn't get, and you're determined that you're going to give those things to your kids.
That is such a good point, and I love the fact that you can speak about that on a topic point for, parents or people that maybe are thinking about becoming parents but are resistant because of their past circumstances. So I find that that's amazing. So as a trauma-informed parenting expert, what are some of the key lessons you've learned about creating healthy parent-child relationships?
Some of the key lessons, number one would be above everything else, make sure you have a good connection with your kids.
Mm,
And I think it's a worthwhile exploration of what exactly is a connection. When your kids clearly understand that you love them no matter what, that even if they engage in quote unquote bad behavior or do things they shouldn't do or do things you would disapprove of, which all kids will do at some point, that does not change how you feel about them, that you giving them attention, love, and affection does not depend on their behavior. It's very important
that's so
because
true.
otherwise they risk growing up like I did, trying to do things for people to get love and attention in return, right? And that's clearly not a healthy relationship dynamic. So when you connect with your kids, you want to make sure that you're having way more positive moments than negative. We're going to have negative moments. Everybody does in every relationship. That's just a given. But you want to make sure you have exponentially more positive moments than negative moments. You
Right.
want to make sure there are moments of connection where you are concentrating on your kids when they need you, not distracted by other things. And when you are communicating to them, whether through words or actions, I see you.
Mhm.
I understand, even if you don't understand exactly what they're going through, because I cannot fathom what it is like to be a teenager right now. I can't
Yeah.
pretend to fathom that 100%, but I can empathize and I can say, I may not understand 100% what it's like for you right now, but I know you're going through a tough time. Like, I
Yeah.
get that, right?
Yeah.
That validation is key because when the parents dismiss the kids' feelings, and kids feel invalidated, kids feel like they don't matter, right?
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking to me. So yeah, so those are some of the key things I would think when parents are really struggling with what to do or what action to take, I tell them first, make sure the connection is solid. Maybe just do an activity, just the two of you, where there's no pressure to do anything. You're just occupying the same space and enjoying each other's company. Or maybe it's as simple as saying, hey, I'm so glad we're doing this together. I really enjoy your company. Or I'm so glad to be your mom. Those things like mean a lot to kids, even adolescents and teens. They won't tell you that necessarily, or they may be like, oh, I'm embarrassed. Yeah, yeah, I know. But that means a lot. They still want you to fight for them. They still want you to make the effort at the connection with them.
I 100% agree with you. And I'll even say, even as a young adult, like I have a young adult, a 25-year-old, my son, and I make sure to tell him, I'm proud of you. I'm thinking of you. If you need something from me, like I want to let him know that I'm there for him, even though he's, has his own job, his own career, his own life. But as his mom, I want to make sure that he knows that he's loved, valued,
Mhm.
respected. It's so important, especially for children. And we'll probably get more into that when we talk about some of your books that are really a little bit more sensitive than
Yeah,
others.
absolutely.
They're
Yeah.
just, go ahead. You had a thought. I
No,
could
no, you're
tell.
fine. I was just going to say that, yeah, even, it's never too late to, you know, um, work on that relationship with your kids, even when they're adults, even when they're out of the house, because they
Yes.
still need you. And kids, even adult children, as you know, they want the connection with the
Yeah.
parents. They want that very much.
I mean, I'm in my 40s and I still want that connection with my parents,
Yeah.
and it's like, and I went through trauma just like you did. And it's like,
Yeah.
but you and I are similar in the fact that we've broken these patterns. And I like that you help others do that as well. So procrastination, people pleasing, and defensiveness are common issues that hold
Mhm.
individuals back. How do these themes tie into your work with both parenting and professional growth?
Right. So those themes I find to be, and I'm not a licensed medical professional or mental health professional. So I'm speaking as a coach, right? And a
Right.
speaker and a parent. So those, and
And a
somebody with
lawyer.
complex PTSD. So I know something about that. But yeah, those, unfortunately, the things you mentioned are some of the legacies of adult children with
Mm,
complex PTSD and complex trauma who had these experiences as kids. Uh, they felt the need to be perfect. So that's where the procrastination comes in. If I can't do this perfectly, I'm just not going to do it at all. But then you don't accomplish anything. You have to be okay with being perfectly imperfect. One of my speaker friends, who's a mom too, she says, "Do it, just do it, but do it janky, do it imperfect. Like I
so
don't care,
true.
just do it."
It's so
But
true.
it's true, and it's
So
like, she's
true.
actually writing a book about it, which I think is fantastic because just do it. Like the book you write, the course you do, it's not going to be perfect the first time out of the gate. It rarely is, but you can't get there and perfect it eventually if you're not taking action. So it really it breaks my heart when I see adults who are clearly intelligent individuals with a ton of potential not live up to the potential because they're afraid to act,
Mm.
because they're afraid of not being perfect. And I see it a lot. And that, yeah,
Yeah,
it's tough.
it's very, very tough. And I'll say, somebody like myself who's in the spiritual realm, and I have a lot of spiritual practitioner friends and whatnot. I can't even tell you, and they're gifted healers, they're gifted, they're talented. How many of them will say, I just don't want to get on video. I just don't
Yeah.
feel comfortable. And it's like, man, if you just got comfortable with being uncomfortable, it won't
Yeah.
even matter once you do it. It's like, but I will say I struggle with the same fears myself. So I'm not diminishing anyone's fears by any means, but it was just like
Sure.
you make a decision and then you shift. And I think that's part of what you coach on is kind
Right.
of helping people to shift out of that, limiting beliefs and breaking patterns and generational trauma. Can you maybe, and I think that's maybe what you consider reparenting in a way. Can you maybe explain why that's essential for personal and professional success?
As far as the procrastination or,
No, but like
okay.
breaking like
Oh
limiting
yeah.
beliefs and repair and having,
Absolutely. Because
yes,
if you believe it, that's what's, I mean, you are what you believe and you
yeah.
accomplish what you believe. It's like that quote, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I forget who
So
said it
true.
now, but
I
it's
love that.
true.
I love
Like,
that saying.
if yeah, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And I get asked all the time, how do you do that? I can't believe you did that. I'm like, well, I did it because like the cost of not doing it was too great. I didn't
Yes.
want to think about later, like, oh, I wanted to do this and I want to do that, but I didn't, and I was too afraid to do it, so I didn't do it. Yeah, it's hard to put yourself out there. I have a YouTube channel and I publish regular content and I have over like 1,000 subscribers. And even now, when I when I do like a live, I just own it and I tell people, you see me in all my awkward glory now. If I'm doing a live, like there are no edits here,
Right,
right?
right. I mean, but
So
people
yeah,
appreciate that authenticity. Like
yeah,
people
absolutely.
don't resonate necessarily with this perfect polish version of yourself that's not true, that, you know, that you
Right.
may put out. Like, people truly resonate with the authentic Maria and what
Right.
she's talking about. And you're owning the fact that this isn't perfect. It's like this podcast, to be very transparent. I don't edit it because it is what it is. Like, you know, what I put up is what I put up. I have a pre-roll, post-roll, and
Yeah.
your stuff goes in the middle. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And to your point, Rachel, like, you can't make people take action, like whether you're a coach or a therapist and you're telling them, well, here's what I
yeah,
recommend, or maybe try this. And then if they don't do it, they don't do it. You can't make them take action.
so
But
true.
like I do tell parents, I'm like, look, I mean, if the discomfort of not doing this is too much, right? Is it gets too much, then you're gonna take action. It depends how badly you want something,
Yes.
right? If you're if the discomfort of not doing it is enough to like get you on your feet and doing it. And like when you're a parent, I mean, it's so tough because time is a premium. and and you have to really decide what you're going to focus on, what you're going to give your time and attention to use that law of attraction language, right? What you're going to give your
Yes.
time and
Yep.
attention to. And it's like this. I recently on an interview quoted this movie I saw, Vengeance, which I love. And like one of the last lines of the movie was, life is all regret. So make sure your regrets count. So when you choose something, you're giving something else up. So make sure the regret of what you gave up is worth what you chose to
Oh, I like
pursue.
that. I like
So
that.
I love that line and it really stuck with me. Like when you choose to do something, you're gonna give up other things.
Yeah, absolutely. You're
Like, so
100%
yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Yes. So,
Like my kid comes first, I'm gonna concentrate on him.
yes.
And if that means some weeks work, is secondary and I don't get to accomplish what I wanted to, that's my choice. Because I also have to take care of myself. Like those are primordial. Take care of myself, take care of my kid,
Yeah.
make sure the bills are paid, whatnot, we have food, all that stuff. Everything else is kind of secondary.
I mean,
So
it's so true. It's so true. And it's almost like, you know, what are your priorities and what is
yeah,
meaningful to you and what matters to you, you
right.
know, and what matters to
Yeah.
you is your son, yourself, and everything else. We'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know?
exactly. And I mean, there's no point like beating yourself up of stuff
No.
it's kind of a waste of energy to kind of beat yourself up over stuff that you did not get to do. It's just a waste of energy. Just as best you can, keep, eyes ahead, one foot in front
Yes.
of the other.
So true. So true. So you've written a lot of books, and the two books that I found to be really fascinating was Handling Gemini and Scorpio Children. What
Yes.
inspired you to focus on these specific signs and what unique challenges and strengths they present in a parenting context?
Okay. Wow. I could talk all day about this stuff. So I'm going to try to give a high level
Elvis.
spiel here. So Scorpio energy. I cannot avoid these people. My dad was a Scorpio sun. My mother has a Mars a Scorpio. My sister has a lot of Scorpio energy in her chart. I have a North Node in Scorpio, which is if you guys follow astrology and study the birth chart, you'll know that's kind of where your kind of destiny, cosmic fate directs you. And my son is a Scorpio sun. So I cannot avoid these people. It is a misunderstood energy, which I go into detail in my book. We just don't have time to go into it all here, but it is a very sensitive, reserved, private, hard to get to know energy. It is an energy that is slow to trust. That's one of the first things I tell parents of Scorpio kids. Your kids are not going to trust you just because you're the parent. You have to earn the trust, right? For all kids, but Scorp is a very suspicious by nature energy for a lot of reasons. So you have to work to get the trust. So you have to just recognize that about the energy.
Yeah.
But it's an energy that is hard to get to the bottom of because it's so reserved and private. So a lot of the times parents find themselves having to spend this extra time and extra energy kind of getting into like what's going on with the kids.
Mm.
And I recommend doing that by making sure, again, the connection is strong, making sure the parents creating the space that the Scorpio kid eventually will feel comfortable enough with sharing deep things. And they will eventually, if the parents take the time to create the relationship and create the space where there's safety
Yeah.
to do that. It's a sensitive energy. It's an energy that's easily triggered. It's an energy of intense emotional experience. And it is a very soul directed energy. It is an energy that looks for soul fulfillment. So
Mm,
part of the parent's job, I find, is like introducing the Scorpio child to all these things the world, everything the world has to offer, and then guiding the kids to figure out, what makes them eventually, what makes them feel fulfilled in life, right? Eventually, as they get older and eventually live on their own.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting energy. It's really like you're always, especially with the Scorpio moon placement, because the moon energy tends to be like more hidden. You're always learning about them. And to me, it's
Mm,
fascinating because I'm a Gemini. So I love learning and I need intellectual stimulation. So you're always learning about the Scorpio person. Like that never stops. It's like peeling back the layers.
you're like, ooh, and this,
Yeah.
ooh, and this,
Yeah.
ooh. I love that. I love that. So your work involves speaking and writing extensively. What messages do you hope to convey to your audience through your talks and your books?
Um, Gosh, so parent the child you have that's in front of you, not the child that may have been easier to parent, or the child that may have been more like you, or the child maybe you kind of theoretically wanted to have. You parent the child you have. You have that child for a reason. The universe gave you that child with that energy for a reason.
Yeah.
So that's the child you got to parent. So their energy may be different from yours. Their communication style may be different from yours. And if it's very different energy from yours, you may have to, it may be more of a challenge to understand that energy. That's fine, but parent the child you have, right? And like a lot of what I teach is child focused, meaning look at, you know, how the child, their preferences, their characteristics,
Yes.
their character, all those things. And obviously go into other things like boundaries, limits, those are all important too. But you really need to understand the kid, because when children feel understood, the connection is better, the connection is stronger, and they're much more likely to take guidance from parents when that connection is strong, when they feel like the parent is batting for them, is there to protect them, and loves them unconditionally and accepts them unconditionally, imperfections and all, they will be much more likely to take guidance from the parents. It's really interesting because I came across this study recently, a 2020 study, a Lebanese study about different types of parenting styles, like authoritative versus
Oh, yeah.
authoritarian versus
Right.
permissive parenting. And they defined authoritative parenting, which is kind of the parenting that I practice, as a relationship of open communication where the parents explain the reasons for the rules, where there's dialogue with the kids, right? And uh, kids aged 15 to 18 out of the study, the ones that came from authoritative parenting households were much more likely to stick to a healthier Mediterranean style diet and had lower alcohol consumption, suggesting that they followed the rules of the parents because of the relationship and the dialogue the parents engaged in with them,
I
not
love
because the
that.
parents just set rules that you have to follow this
Right.
or else, right? So it is very much, the more respect you give kids, especially as kids get older. I mean, a teenager is almost an adult. So
Right.
they need age appropriate respect from the parents and age appropriate independence. So yeah, that was a very interesting study,
I
and
like
one
that.
that, yeah, validating. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that interesting, and it's so true about like treating your kids with respect.
Yeah.
Like we make mistakes, and there's times that we're going to have to own up to our mistakes and apologize and redirect. And that didn't work the way that I planned it to, and whatnot. And I will
Right.
say that I have two kids, a 15-year-old, he'll call me out. He'll like, get out of my room with that attitude, mom. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. And then I'll come back. Like, but it's like, but I want that. And I'm sure you do the same
Yeah.
thing with your, and
Yeah.
that's how you teach. It's like, I want that
Yeah.
dialogue. If I'm coming across to you a certain way that you're
Right.
not vibing with, and I need to redirect and I need to
Right.
reapproach.
Right.
So
My 14-year-old will tell me, why are you irritated right now? You seem really irritated. Why are you irritated right now? I'll be like, yeah, I am irritated, and I'm irritated because I'm tired and you're not doing what I told you to do, but you will do it eventually. It's just that you're not like doing it right now at this second,
right.
And I am not always the most consistent parent. That's like the bane of the Gemini parent, is we're
I
not
love it.
always consistent. And I know that about myself. Like I know that some days I just don't have the energy to argue about stuff or negotiate stuff. But we have a set of very firm, like no bargain rules,
Nice.
and very few, because as I tell my kid, I don't like rules. I don't
Mm,
like limits. I like freedom. I like to do what I
yes.
want, and I have morals, and I can make healthy
Right.
choices
What's
for
right and
myself.
wrong? Right.
Yeah, but my teenager, teens have poor impulse control, and I explain all this. The teen brain is like this. That's just how the teen brain is. Doesn't mean you're bad or anything, but this is why you still need guidance. But yeah, but so I'll make those really strict rules about certain things, which are usually to do with like health and safety, but almost everything else is kind of up for negotiation depending on the
Yeah.
context of what we're talking about. So that's kind of how I deal with that. That way I give myself the freedom of like, well, I know, and he knows that we have very firm rules, this set of rules, but everything else we could kind of talk about depending on, what's going on. So
I love
yeah,
that. I love
yeah.
that. I love it. Boys are interesting. I will
Mhm.
say that boys are interesting and they're very, I love that. I think that's perfect. I like, I'm having a moment in my brain. I'm like, yep, Brayton's the same
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
So before I ask you last question, if anyone is interested in learning more about you, what is the best place for them to go to?
Sure. So I blog on lawschoolheretic.com. And you can also find links to my books there, and I'm on Amazon under Maria Riegger. And I publish regular parenting and astrology content on Positive Parenting with Astrology with Maria Riegger on YouTube. And I have all my social media stuff there. But yeah, that's the best place to start with. YouTube's probably the best place to start on the kind of parenting and astrology topic.
I
Yep.
love that. I love that. Lastly, based on your extensive experience and journey, what is one piece of advice you would offer to our listeners who are seeking to improve their relationship with their children and themselves?
Um, Definitely give yourself grace. I would definitely say that. But I would reiterate, when the parent really is not sure about what action to take and is kind of on the fence or feeling a lot of anxiety, um, work on the connection and attachment with your kids.
Hmm.
Just take a day or two and spend like one-on-one time with them. That may be hard if you have multiple kids, depending on what's going on with them. Um, Make sure, yeah, maybe take a day and do just a fun activity where you're enjoying each other's company, but work on the connection before correcting or worrying about any behavior, right? Work on the
Yeah.
connection. And if there's anything you need to talk to them about, you can start by asking them questions or telling them, I'm honest, I'll say, I am concerned about this particular social media app.
Yes.
And then I find that when I do that, instead of like, you're not going to use this anymore, is when I open it up like that, I have concerns about this. I read this article today, and frankly, it was kind of terrifying. My kid and I can have a back and forth discussion, and I will get way better results that way. And he's even said to me, you know what? If you're really concerned about that app, I'll delete it from my phone. That's actually happened. And it's like, I didn't have to be like, you're not doing this or blah, 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 or
Yes.
I'm going to monitor your phone all the time, which I don't have the time or energy to do anyway.
Yeah.
So when I engage him, and also because he's like almost 15, like you said, like I
Right.
can talk to him. He's not an adult yet, but I can talk to him more frankly about these things.
Yes.
When I tell him I am concerned about some stuff you may come into contact with online, and I'd like to talk about, how I can screen some of the stuff on your phone. We can do this or we can do this. Like he's much more willing to work with me on that stuff without
Absolutely.
resistance if I approach it that way. So
I love that. That's a great piece of advice. I will say that I probably do the same thing with my son. It's more like we just have an open dialogue about,
right,
you may be exposed to marijuana at school or this.
right.
What do you think about that? Is this something you're thinking about doing? Like, what do you
Hmm.
think about it? No, I've been exposed. It's much more than don't do that.
Right, right.
Like,
Don't do that or else.
or
Well,
else.
but then what
Or else.
happens if they do it? They may not come to talk to you about it because now they're
Right.
afraid. And I would want to know if my kid's doing that. I want to know, and we'll
Absolutely.
figure out what to do. But if you don't know, if they're not gonna, that's a really great point to leave on too. Like if your
Yes.
kid, nothing's gonna matter if your kid does not feel comfortable talking to you.
So true.
All the
So
restrictions on the
true.
phone, everything else, the rules, they will not matter if your kid is not going to talk to you. It is impossible for parents to monitor 24/7. It is impossible.
It is, because you
You
bring up a
can't.
good point. Like, ultimately we want them to safe, but ultimately they're going to live their lives and
Yeah.
they're going to find a way around you if they
Yeah.
don't feel comfortable coming to you.
Right. Yeah. And then when they're 18 or whatever age, and they're living on their own, you're not going to be around and monitor them anyway. So they
So
have to be
true.
able to make these good decisions for themselves.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And then you bring up another good point. Like, we also want them to be independent members of society. And how are they going to function? You
Right.
know? So
Yeah.
true. Oh my goodness. All great advice. Maria, thank you so much for coming to Spiritual Spotlight Series. It's truly been a pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for having me on.